The people that actually succeed are the people that are prepared to push the boundaries.
The fastest way to build your confidence is to do what you said that you will do. Put your balls on the line.
You're not posting anything on your page of results for 3 months, but you're telling me that you're good at what you do. This world doesn't reward people that are inconsistent. It rewards people that are at the top.
How you behave behind closed doors is the result that you are going to get. It is not what you post on Instagram. It's not what everybody else sees.
Today, in the world of sameness that we live in, with thousands more people coming online, you more than ever right now have to position yourself differently, which means you have to have a system, which means your program has to have a name, and you have to have an undeniable stack of evidence that you can achieve that thing over and over and over again.
This is where discipline equals freedom. Back yourself to do the thing. And guess what? It's going to probably take longer. It's going to be more expensive. It's going to be harder work. There are going to be tears. There's going to be blood and sweat along the way. And thank God that there will be.
It is a degree of brainwashing that AI is the future. I think that everything is a tool as long as you don't surrender the human. So much of the life that I wanted to engineer, I've created. And I look at like where we live, what we do, the home that we've got, the lifestyle that Marsha's got with Mason, the fact that she's at home all the time. And I think often kind of what's next? You know, what am I working towards? And I think what I'm focusing on at the moment more than anything. Rach.
It's been 6 months.
3 seasons. Third one, we're at it. It's been 6 months. I know you were just kind of, how's that flown by?
I know. As I was driving down here today, I was like, oh, well, I think we did our last podcast in December time. So, and I look back, it was like September.
Yeah.
You and I are fundamentally completely different people to who we were 6 months ago. Like literally different people.
I say this to coaches all the time and the people that I work with. It's like, you know, if firstly, if you're not changing, you're not growing. But if you're also not acknowledging your changes, then you're naively coasting. And I think, you know, you could ask somebody, how much have you changed recently? They're like, no, I'm the same person. I'm like, you're not. What's happened with you? What's changed with you? Last 6 months. So let's dive into that.
Like personally and professionally. So in August last year, I think it was the month before we did our podcast, I sat down and I had to think about where I want a business to be by August this coming year. So in 2026. And I knew that there were going to have to be some pretty big changes structurally, systems wise. You and I started talking about systems. Obviously, you're 6 months ahead of me in terms of like
we'll dive into that,
the changes that you've made within your company. And so I thought, right, I'm going to have to organize all of this stuff because anyone who knows me knows that I'm very chaotic in the way that I work. And I've just grown accustomed to that. But I do now need some systems and structure in order to be able to scale to that next level. So I think from my perspective, you know, I have to practice what I preach. And one of the things that I tell clients, whether that be in fat loss, in business, in relationships, whatever it might be, is that you have to become the person to get the thing. You can't just expect a $3 million business just like that. Who is the $3 million business owner? And how does she act? How does she think? How does she operate? What systems and structures and organization? Who do you need to become in order to be able to get the thing? So I've really thought about leadership. I've read a couple more leadership books. I have looked at leadership in my own life and where I'm perhaps falling short, where am I lacking skills and my skill set. And so I think for me, definitely the systems thing, I read Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time in January. That was such a great book. And it was a real game changer in the way that I also interview new people. So whereas previously, I think I brought on staff members, as most of us do, for their skills rather than actually buying back your time. So I wrote down a list of everything that I was currently unavailable to do anymore and looked to hire people in those roles. So we have brought on several new contractors to work with us. I've now finally, as of yesterday, got my final Avenger on board, which I'm so excited about. He's an absolute gun when it comes to operations. So I feel like now my team is assembled. So in order for me to have that team, I had to be very transparent with them. And I labeled it and I was like, listen, guys, especially Rachel, my I don't even know what to call her. She's like my right-hand girl. Like my EA, Rachel, I brought on 5 years ago as my EA, and she's so much more than that now. I mean, she oversees pretty much everything. And so I said to Rachel, listen, I'm going to go through a transformation here, and like, let's just call it founder coach to founder CEO. And this is going to be a turbulent time for me. I need you to hold my hands along the way. I need you to have my back. And she always has my back anyway. But I knew that this is going to be a transformation that was not going to be easy, because the easiest thing to do, I think, especially when you've been in your career for 20 years, is to go back into founder coach. It feels familiar. It feels safe. It's also where you get your validation, your certainty, your security, talking about training and nutrition and fixing problems. And, you know, you see clients struggling, and you see your coaches who are perhaps struggling with those clients, and you look at the case study and I'm like, well, it's obvious what the answer is. It's right there. And so I've had to almost stop doing that and look at where I'm lacking in my skill set and build that. Now, personally, I thought, I got this nailed. I teach identity. How hard can it be? It's fine. So it's all swimming. It's all going swimmingly in sunshine and rainbows for the first, month or so. And then you get to the stage where things start to get sticky. And I remember I went into David's office about a month ago, and I just had one of those moments where I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. This is so fucking hard. And David, in all his wisdom, he was like, do you want me to fix the problem for you, or do you just want me to listen? I was like, do not fix my problems for me. I just need you to listen. And I basically said to him, I think that this is a gift from the universe, reminding me how hard our clients have it when it comes to changing their identity, when it comes to fat loss. Because I'll be honest with you, over the past 5 to 10 years, I've had it pretty easy when it comes to identity. Like, a lot of stuff has like kind of shifted naturally for me. I'm always open to change. I have the motto of fuck around and find out, as many of us do now, and throw myself in a deep end, a deep knowing that the universe has my back and I'll just land on my feet. And so I've kind of gone with that. But when you make a categorical decision to really go after something, like being that delusionally optimistic about something and having your complete blinkers on, I'll tell you now that this is happening at the end of this year, without a shadow of a doubt. And I'm doing it with or without anybody who's coming with me. This is what's going to happen. Inevitably, there are going to be some tears along the way. So this is what I said to David. This has made me a lot more empathetic and compassionate towards my clients who really struggle with that identity shift. If they want to change, they want to become the fit, healthy, hot A player, but they're stuck in this identity of being an overweight, overwhelmed overachiever. And they build their new identity, but they've got these old patterns of thought and behavior that keep pulling them back. Overwhelm, perfectionism, completion addiction, being a human doing. So your self-worth is being tied up, being busy and achieving. So this is also what stops people from manifesting. And so you can manifest and you can create all these new ideas, but if you've got all of these old patterns and thoughts and behavior, this is what we need to reprogram subconsciously. So I've had to do a lot of like subconscious reprogramming in myself to let go of this, to fully step into this. And it is like, like fighting in the dark sometimes, and just having that ultimate faith and trust that this is going to work out.
You said something a few minutes ago, which was a gift from the universe. In 6 months ago when we did the episode, I talked about how much I had changed the company. I had a restructure. In essence, I've come back to the center. And I believe that I've had a gift from the universe in this season that I've been through, because as a coach, and I am a coach, you're a coach, like it's in my DNA. I love problem solving. I love coaching. I care for people immensely. But when I was coaching in my gym and as a online coach, I was at the center of the skill of coaching, not just the skill of, call it a skill if you wish, but I don't think it is, training somebody in the gym. I think that is not a skill. That's just like you're facilitating a training session or doing a check-in template. Coaching is the art of taking somebody through a journey. And what I realized when we scaled very, very fast is that we scaled numbers, but we lost the skill that I became known for, which was coaching. So we were giving people the implementable tasks to do, and they were not doing them as well. Regardless of how many videos you have in a system, regardless of how many calls you do with people, the implementation is the skill that people lack. And 90% of the coaches that we work with and 90% of fat loss struggle with personal development. What I realized is that when I slowly removed myself from the business, like buy back your time, have all these great people doing everything for you, the reality is the time back for me was not spent enough on developing the team as professional coaches. Because the ultimate reason why people stay with us is that they're making progress. And it's not just the tactical stuff that they need to make progress. It's the evolution as a human being. They need to go through these identity shifts. They need coaching through the process. And when we scaled really fast, I've noticed in the last year, when I've come back in and I've taken back control of the CMO role, the CEO, like it's been tough the last year. I'm not going to lie. I had to regain control of what I have spent 25 years building, which is my reputation as a coach. Everything I've learned in psychology, human behavior, and putting that back into the model, and then making sure that everybody is firing on all cylinders, but everybody's developing the skills so that they can coach, has been a fascinating journey for me. But I think it's a reminder from the universe to me to say, hold on a minute. I'm going to create some turbulent waters to remind you of your genius skill. And the fact that if this company is going to be focused around coaching and helping people evolve as human beings, that has to be the central focus, not helping people grow a business. Helping grow a business by tactically implementing things to get them to where they want to be is the same as saying, tactically, I'm going to tell you to go to the gym. Tactically, I'm going to tell you to eat this particular food. It doesn't work for everybody.
It doesn't work for anybody because, remember, we are 5 bodies. The mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic, and physical.
Which is what you and I have always focused on with human beings. So every time I get involved with a coaching call with people, I go, do you know what? This isn't a freaking content problem. This is a personal problem. Do you know how many coaches, Rach, in the last 5 years have struggled with content creation because of a lack of identity alignment, struggle with content alignment because they have no genius skill, content alignment because they're just general, right? And they're like, it's got to do with what I'm saying in my content. I'm like, it's got to do with you.
Yes.
And we have to get back to the fundamental truth here that, you know, you're watching people create content and blowing up, but they've identified that genius skill. For us, there's so much work that we do with helping somebody find who they are, why they're different, what place they have on the earth, and what skill they have to be able to help somebody get to where they want to be. Because ultimately, everything you see on content and social media is people presenting them either as a complete or a skilled professional. So what you talk about these 5 bodies, for us, when we develop a coach, we're developing who they are, how they think, their values, we're restructuring their identity, because then you start to notice somebody running a very aligned, congruent, or authentic brand. What we struggle with today as a professional company is helping people who want to race ahead understand that the foundation needs to be in place, whether you're scaling or building. And I think what that's helped me do in the last year as a founder is go, hold on a minute, Mark. You've raced ahead to grow this business, but the genius skill that positions you different to anybody else is your ability to help somebody find their authenticity and then grow a business that they love rather than a business that they're just chasing. That's what this last year has been all about. I was designing a business model to help coaches grow rather than helping coaches evolve. Because to me, every identity shift that I've made in myself has brought more business growth, more clarity, the right types of clients, and a business I love. And the minute I stopped loving my business, I threw away my identity and I subjected other people's views, values, and beliefs in. So I was essentially running a business not as myself. And that's why I think the gift back to the universe to me was, hey, I'm going to fuck up the business a little bit for you to bring you back to who you are. And that's why right now we have a smaller business, we have a smaller team. I'm happier than I've ever been. And I've basically taken control of myself. And you know what? I only saw yesterday a coach that we've worked with, and they were talking about how things are working now, right? I won't say who it is, but when I was working with them, they were going through relationship trouble. They were a pretty angry, resentful person. And a lot of that anger and resentment was to me, the business, the growth that wasn't happening. And I was like, can you not see that this business isn't moving forward because of you? And until we actually help you reestablish your values, who you are, your authenticity, and you start loving you again and loving your environment, no content ad marketing strategy is going to work, because it's just going to, as I always explain, if you're trying to grow something from a place of inauthenticity, it feels like you're pushing it, grinding, and that grinding exhausts you.
Yes.
And it's like it's not working, because today in this world in 2026, more than ever, marketing and messaging is rewarding authenticity.
Yes.
And this is funny because this coach now is praising a completely different mentorship for scaling their business and doubling their figures. And I think, good on you.
Yeah.
But you came into my world in a different season.
Of course.
I can't fix somebody that thinks a marketing strategy is going to solve all their problems if they don't listen to a 48-year-old guy that's been around the block a lot. And I said, spend some time with me on you, because they want this quick 10K, 20K, 30K jump. And I'm like, that's going to come. But if we don't fix this you thing, and we'll talk about this today, but I think for me, I don't have a problem in admitting the last year I've had to let go of the person that I built that was opposite to the person that got here.
Mm.
I had subjected and created this alter ego. And that's when I became the most unhappy. That's when things weren't working. Things were growing financially, but I just didn't feel aligned. And I think that we're at a point right now with this episode where, holy shit, the last year has been tough.
Yeah.
But I'm at a place now where we're attracting the right clients. We're having great conversations. We're bringing the right people into the program. The team are a lot happier. Came off a call yesterday with my head of marketing, and he just said to me, wasn't that amazing?
Oh, how good
It was just
is that?
such a lovely call with everybody.
So good.
He actually said, wasn't that lovely?
Yeah.
It was just so good. We're also positive. Anybody who's so energized. And I'm not saying everybody in the company before was a problem. I think I was a lot of the problem.
Yeah.
But when I bring energy and everybody has a good time and everybody's working together, sometimes there has to be like a year's time in a company where you fix this thing. And it can take a long time.
I think one of the big things with identity is a lot of people are very clear on what they don't want, but they don't know what they do want. And one of the phrases that I say over and over again is you have to know who you are, what you stand for, and where you're going in life. And people say, well, how do I know who I am, what I stand for, and where I'm going in life? And the answer is stop being such a fucking good girl, because there's no right or wrong answer. Or stop being such a good boy. There's no right or wrong answer. You try different coats on, you feels what feels good and what's aligned for you now. Thank God your business didn't work and you didn't scale to like 10, 15 mil.
No, but I'm grateful.
Exactly, right? Because it was such a gift, because thank God, like, imagine you guys scale like 10, 15, 20 mil, turnover, and then you're really fucked, because you've really got to tear it all down to the ground. Thank God these things happen early. So I always say to people, just try some stuff on, like see what feels good for you. And this isn't a case of like fake it till you make it. Do what feels aligned right now. Mark and I are sitting here now. We're not the same people as we were 6 months ago. I know where I'm going to be in 6 months' time, and I'll be there or I'll be beyond that. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, identity is one of those things that's very fluid. It's not right or wrong. And I think a lot of people are really struggling with, well, I've got to get this right. There's no right or wrong answer.
Right. The amount of calls that I do with coaches, I actually took back control of my sales calls. Our call volume dropped. It wasn't enough call volume to facilitate the closes that I had in the program at the time. We brought in a triage setter who would take on 15-minute calls to protect my calendar. And I've ended up doing a lot more of the sales calls. This has really helped me, because it helped me to understand my audience a lot better, get really into the weeds. And one thing we're noticing with so many coaches is delaying the decision to say yes.
What, as in terms of like taking action?
Huge issue. Yeah, action taking. They have a stability of personal training. They have a stability of another job. And the idea of doing the online business, the idea of building from here, it feels like such a mountain. And the excuse is, I just want to have everything right, as you were saying.
Oh my God, like this is so alien to me. I literally jump.
It is so common.
Really?
It's so common at the moment to speak to coaches who just won't jump into, we can discuss this now.
I'm going to get fucking fired up about this. I'm like literally itching to get into this.
But I'm like, from my perspective, there's something that I want to do. Like one of my team members yesterday said, we need to change this. I'm like, it'll be done tomorrow.
Yes.
And they go, that I didn't say, but what if I do it wrong? I'm like, I'm going to do it, and then we're going to test it, and then we're going to see it. And the thing is with online is if you do not get started, and this is not just about online, it's fat loss, it's starting your business, it's doing whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
It's fuck it, do it.
Do it now.
And then
Like,
find out.
you could be fucking dead tomorrow, mate.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, I just, you know, I don't want to put like, you know, some money towards, like, money is one of those things. It is, you have like the one thing that is replenishable is money.
Mm-hmm.
You could be fucking dead. Time is your biggest asset. The fact that people are waiting to do the thing blows my fucking mind, really. And I mean, it's certainly not in my DNA. It's not in a high achiever's DNA. And so,
well, that's interesting. It's actually not any high achiever. If I get on a call and I say, I'm speaking to you about doing something and you have what I want, there's two things obviously on a sales call. The decision to say yes can either be, I don't think you have what I need, right? So that's an honest conversation. I don't think you have what I need. But the second thing is, this is exactly what I need. I just need some time to think about it. Is you delaying your opportunity to do that? And that's the most biggest frustration to me, is that you're not giving yourself the gift of what could be by delaying.
Psychologically, what's happening is that actually somebody's not backing themselves. And this comes down to a self-worth problem, because the ability to back yourself, I believe, is trained and it's trainable. So, you know, you have to start small, and it's these, you have to have these like micro points of personal integrity. So personal integrity is doing what you said that you will do. And so let's talk about fat loss in the gym, for example. Let's just say, for argument's sake, you said to yourself in your head, when nobody else is watching, you're going to go to the gym at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. You better make damn well sure that you're going to the gym at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, because if you don't do that and you're not honoring yourself, and this is what chips away at your self-worth and your self-confidence, it's like, oh, well, I'll just push that one thing back. It seems so insignificant, but it makes such a big deal when it comes to your overall personal integrity and your overall confidence. The fastest way to build your confidence is to do what you said that you will do. Put your balls on the line. Back yourself to do the thing. And guess what? It's going to probably take longer. It's going to be more expensive. It's going to be harder work. There are going to be tears. There's going to be blood and sweat along the way. And thank God that there will be. Because God forbid you arrive at your vague fucking goal one day without having blood, sweat, and tears. You will feel empty. It will feel dull and it will feel boring. And that's exactly where you are. I'm not saying that you didn't have blood, sweat, and tears, but it also wasn't aligned. So you then have the double whammy of getting to the point of, you know, hitting your business targets financially, but it feels empty. There's been some blood, sweat, and tears there. And this is where it feels like not aligned. Something feels off energetically. Like we know that energetically something feels off. And so this is where we have to come back to self-worth. Self-worth and self-esteem being the number one thing, doing what you said that you will do in private when nobody else is watching. How you behave behind closed doors is the result that you are going to get. It is not what you post on Instagram. It's not what everybody else sees. It is how you behave behind closed doors.
And I think that builds up momentum. And I think that's what a lot of people don't do. So for example, if you wake up in the morning, like when my alarm goes off at 5:45, there are days when I could just lie there for a little bit more. But I know that every waking day at 5:45, 7 days a week, I go, and I still do this to the day, legend, right? Because it's a tick box for me. It's like I do the thing that I say I'm going to do. And if I'm saying I'm going to get up at 5:45, I get up. But it also builds momentum. It also builds the habit. And it also is you leaning into the thing that actually gives the greatest reward. As you said, it's doing the thing that you said you were going to do. And that's what I think. If you say to somebody, this decision for you not to start the mentorship, now let's have an open, honest conversation, is exactly what you need. Is this exactly the right time? Yes. So now we're going to make a decision to get going. Just need a bit of time. That lack of indecision shows up in so many areas of your life. Let's look at other things that you've not said yes to. Because this is just the only way you're going to break the habit is by saying yes now. And that's where I think a lot of people do not get any momentum in their life, is because they're just not prepared to say yes at least once, because they'll stack up the challenges, how hard it's going to be. For me, I don't care what's on the other side of it.
Same.
All I care about is whether I say yes.
100%. A lot of people have to understand that potential is irrelevant without action. And action is actually the small things. So I'm good at two things, and honestly, two things only. I'm very good at the boring basics that nobody else wants to do. And honestly, like you getting up in the morning, requires zero thought and zero decision, that because they are not negotiable. I get up, I train, I walk, I sleep, I eat, the whole foods. These are not negotiable. So therefore, then it's not a decision that I have to think about doing. It's not negotiable. You getting up in the morning, completely not negotiable. 7 days a week, not negotiable. You don't even think about it. This is where discipline equals freedom. You're not tied up in the oh well, I could lie here, but then I'll feel bad later. And then you're like, what a waste of time that is. Potential is irrelevant without action. And the second thing I'm very good at, as you are, is staying in the game longer than everybody else. And so what happens is that when you get on the phone to a coach, and honestly, anybody listening to this, I mean, all right, I might be a bit biased. I've known you for a very long time, right? I was your client, right? Many, many moons ago. I came back to the UK. I used to come up from London to Nottingham to see you because I was like, you are the best in the country and I want to train with you. And one of the first things that Mark said to me when I walked in his office is like, I'm not going to tell you you've got a great physique. We're going to make it better. And I was like, I'm fucking sold. Right? Because you don't bullshit anybody. So, all right, I've got a personal relationship with you, so I might be biased. But anybody who doesn't come into your coaching program, honestly, is a fucking idiot. And I'm saying that from a perspective of you will stay stuck. And honestly, it is no skin off Mark's nose and no skin off anyone at the coaching concierge of whether you join them or not. It makes all of the difference to you. If you are a coach who is now coming online, and Mark and I have been in the industry for over 20 years, I would have paid an arm and a leg to have the leg up that you give your coaches. I can honestly tell you that I think you're undercharging by a lot, but anybody who can't, like, you have to be able to see the value in, if you think, I think what it is, again, let's bring it back to self-worth, is that people are not prepared to back themselves. It's not a money issue. It's not a time issue, because let's be honest, if it was, oh, I just need to think about it, honestly, that comes down to the fact that you've actually got all of the information that they need. And it's just a case of them backing themselves or not. But I think that somebody, and this is the most heartbreaking thing as a coach, is that it doesn't make any difference to us whether somebody works with us or not. It makes all the difference to them. And I personally still find it really hard when I see somebody who I know could do so well, but they're letting themselves down.
Well, look, this leads on to something which is amazing, right? Because I think there's something that I describe myself as in this season. I'm the end of the line guy.
Yes. We're the end of the line.
Fucking are, right? I'm going to fucking be bold about this. You don't come to me at the beginning.
No.
Unless you have an excellent mindset.
Yeah.
You start off with the mentor that's been in the industry 1 or 2 years. You start off with the mentor that's promising the 10, 20K months in 3 months, because you're vulnerable, because you're impressionable, because you're not mature. You start off with Weight Watchers when you don't want to hear the truth from a coach. You want to sit in a room with fat women or guys where you feel relatively comfortable, and you're an average mindset, and you get told you can kind of eat these points, whatever the system is. And then you lose a little bit of weight, and then more fat people tell you you're doing really well, and then you stay there. That's kind of like where you start. And I always used to remember this with M10, my gym. And I loved that place, and it was some of the happiest times. But people would come into the gym and they'd say, I've tried everything. And here's my new season I'm in right now. I'm the mentor that people come to when you've tried everything. When you're finally ready to fucking listen to the truth that you're not good enough.
Let's talk about that.
I do.
Yes.
I tell them, but here's the important thing. You're the end of the line, because when people follow you and you fucking say the truth, Rach, the honest truth, you're not going to have a woman who's like, Oh, it's Rachel Godfrey. You're going to have a woman going, I love you, no bullshit attitude. Cool. Well, I promised myself this year that, and in the last month, that I got to say, because the way that I speak is like this. The way that I don't speak is hook, body, close, right? I say what I fucking mean. And I tell coaches, and I said to somebody the other day, been in the industry over 10 years, I said, you're not going to hear this from somebody else, but you're going to hear it from me. I've been in the industry 25 years. You rate yourself, and your ego stops you building your better business. I said, you rate yourself, but you're actually a shit coach. And he went,
what a gift that is,
and he
honestly.
said, I said, you're a shit coach. And I said, do you know why? I said, because in this world of sameness, the world of generalists, you're not producing results. If I was in your shoes right now, and I can pull up my laptop right now and show you my folder of transformations I achieved, I was pumping them out over and over and over again of incredible high quality. You're not posted anything on your page of results for 3 months, but you're telling me that you're good at what you do. This world doesn't reward people that are inconsistent. It rewards people that are at the top. So this is interesting for me, is that I promised my team that we're not going to fuck about anymore. And we are going to say no to the people that come into the program, because you can't build a business, you can't build a physique, you can't lose body fat unless you're prepared to hear the fucking truth. And that is what we promised in this new season, is where we've allowed people coming in that could spend X on a mentorship, right? And find a bank loan and do this. But I said, unless you can coach and get results and you're passionate about coaching, you don't really belong in the online coaching space, because you're starting off from a place of, I don't know if I can, I can't. I'm like, so go and do something base. Build your confidence up, because the reality is you're not going to lose body fat. You're not going to improve and not going to excel unless you are of excellence mindset. And I think what we've realized, and you're the same, is that people do the lower level stuff. But this is why I don't have a problem with many mentors out there in the world. I don't. That's why I don't think any coach should have a problem with them being thousands of online coaches around the world.
Yep.
Because something we discussed before this, there's a ladder in the world. And there's a ladder of generalists. There's a ladder of specialists. There's a ladder of experts, and there's a ladder of authority. Myself and yourself sit on the authority ladder. We're sought after for our skill set. The world right now, and my business is called Coaching Concierge, and we help coaches build authority coaching brands. And we build authority brands because that's what I built. But we help coaches move out of a sea of sameness with generalists and become a specialist. What is your specialist field? I help coaches build an authority brand. I don't help online coaches build online coaching businesses. We help you build the systems and processes so that you have unique IP to stand out in the world. And I think that one of the biggest things about having this ladder is there always needs to be generalists below you.
Yes.
If you're an expert in authority, because they're the people that soak up the sea of average. And then people climb up this ladder. And it's interesting that the coach that we lost because they wouldn't hear the truth ends up growing, but they've gone out of generalist to specialist.
Yeah.
No one else has helped them that. They have. And this is a big thing, big thing.
It's funny. I had this exact same conversation with a client of mine. She's in the States. She's got an enormous firm. And I asked her to rate herself on her nutrition. And so she gave herself, I think it was like an A- or something on her nutrition. And I said, I'll be honest with you, it's a solid B-. I mean, I would probably even say a C.
Yeah.
And she kind of like, was a bit shocked. And she said, but this is what I've always done, and I'm very consistent with it. And I was like, you've hired me for fat loss. But you're doing a very average job at that. And so when I was thinking about this, I likened it to jiu-jitsu. Everybody knows that like jiu-jitsu has gone from being my little hobby to my latest, and will probably stay with me for the next 20 odd years obsession. But I look at, white belt through black belt. When you're a white belt, you have no idea of the level of skill required to be black belt. And so I watch my trainer sometimes, and I watch him fight, and I'm like, how did you do that? And my mind can't even begin to comprehend like that level of expertise. And so I'm a black belt in a weight room, right? I see things that probably most
100%.
other trainers will not see.
And never see.
And they will never see that, right? And so, but there are levels to that. So, I got 3 stripes on my white belt. I'm not a complete beginner anymore. I'm starting to understand the depth of the game. And the more you learn, the less you know, right? The more you learn jiu-jitsu, you realize like actually how shit you are to start with, but also how much you have to learn. So my goal right now is not to get my black belt, right? That's so far off into the future. My goal right now is to become a really good white belt so that when I get my blue belt, I'm going to be a fucking great blue belt. I don't just want a blue belt just because I've done the hours. I want it because I've earned it and because I've become a really, really good blue belt. And so I think we can apply this to every area of life. And this is where it comes back to identity of what's your next level identity. And this is where we can remove some of the resistance when it comes to changing your identity. Whereas, people want to be a good boy and a good girl and get it right. Well, it's not about getting it right or wrong. Try things on for size and see what they feel like. What's your next level identity? Don't go, and I've said this on previous episodes that we've done, don't go 2, 3, 5 years into the future. Go for the next 6 to 12 months. I don't really go more than 12 months, to be honest, because I think time goes too quickly. Yeah. But 6 to 12 months of what do you want to achieve in that time and who do you need to become in order to be able to achieve those things? And when you go then from, my client rating herself as a B minus or whatever it was, and I rated her as a B minus and I was being kind, how do we get her to an A? That's not white belt to black belt. That is white belt, like no stripes, to white belt, 1 stripe. Yeah. And just starting these like gradual things along the way. Anyway, she sends me a WhatsApp about 4 days later of her stocked fridge of everything that she's prepared. And I was like, that is an A+. But it's not going to stay an A+ unless you can sustain it. So let's see how we go. And I'm talking to her tomorrow. I'll let you know.
I'm excited, for any client that says, what's stepping stones? We onboarded a new client into our scale program yesterday. And I said, this is where we're going to make the most progress. This is where we're going to get a win. But there's so many people that want that black belt. And do you know what? I mean, I'll ask you this question. What do you think it does to somebody that consistently is unfulfilled that they're not a black belt? Like they're a white with 2 stripes, right? Mm-hmm. I've learned something today. I don't understand the belts. I understand kind of up to black belt. But this is what creates a lot of unfulfillment. Mm-hmm. You see somebody with a certain amount of money. You see somebody with a better physique. To me, every single day is about improving. And it's understanding what's the micro step that's going to help me to get to that next level. What do you think it's doing to somebody? I think constantly actually, like John DeMartini says, for every fantasy, you're delivered a depression, mm-hmm. which I used to love, because the depression is balancing you the fuck out from an unrealistic expectation. Mm-hmm. You're creating this fantasy. The reality is if you go 1 step or 2 steps forward, tick that box off, then you have evidence that you're working forward. It's not guaranteed you're going to reach that, but there's evidence that you're stepping forward, and the evidence is the thing that gives you that confidence.
Right. So what do people who are white belt and they want to be black belt, or people who say that they want
constantly stress that they're not a black belt yet, not a black belt.
They're not a black belt yet. And we use that as a thing for whatever it is in life, right? You're not at the financial status you want. You're not in a relationship you want. You're not at the body you want, right? Well, let's just call it black belt. What they're doing is what they think a black belt is going to give them that they're avoiding or devoid of in their life currently. So let's look at the black belt mentality of somebody who's in shape. They are literally a black belt jiu-jitsu. They've got the car, whatever it might be, the finances, the business. Somebody who's a white belt and they're constantly comparing to that, they think that by having this, they're going to have the confidence, the security, the social status, the certainty, and the love and respect for themselves and others, right? It's all the human needs, Tony Robbins' human needs. They think that that is what that thing represents, the body, the business, the lifestyle, or the actual black belt. What they're missing is the fact that there are some people out there who get that, right? Let's just take a lottery winner, for example. You win $10 million in a lottery. Most lottery winners lose it straight away. Why? Because they haven't become the person who gets the thing. Yeah. They have got the thing without becoming the person. So you step into black belt mentality of having a black belt physique, a black belt in jiu-jitsu, a black belt business, without the skills required to maintain that and also continue growing. So the other thing is that a lot of people, this is where a lot of people go wrong in fat loss. They think that the black belt, the body, the business that turns over 5 mil a year is the end goal. And so they hustle in their current state to get and achieve that thing because it's going to be so painful to get there that when I finally get there, then it's done. Not realizing that actually the skills that you need to maintain a physique are exactly the same skills that's going to take you to get there in the first place. And which is why people like crash dieting, because they hate dieting and they hate being fat. And it's the battle of which is the most painful at that current point in time. So let's just say somebody's got 20 kilos to lose. They hate being fat, so they'll suffer through the dieting until such a point where maybe they're like, 5 kilos off their goal weight. And then the pain that's motivating them is not quite so painful anymore. Now the dieting becomes really painful. And what you've got to realize is that we're driven by pain and pleasure. So yes, pain is an amazing motivator. It is. But unless we have the pleasure side of it as well, where how good you can feel, you actually get to choose this life and voluntarily choose it, the pain and the pleasure of both sides of the equation. Unless you do those two things, you are constantly going to be looping and you are never going to get the physique. You're never going to get the business. You're never going to get the black belt.
I see that way too often.
How does that manifest in your clients? So let's talk about your clients. And I think what would be something really helpful if we draw up the comparisons between traits of your high achieving clients and your best clients who just absolutely just crush it. And then the traits of those who loop, specifically, not victims. Let's talk about people who loop, those people who do really try, but they just can't seem to quite break out. So those two sorts of clients.
The traits of the successful people that we work with that grow, they're multifaceted first and foremost.
What does that mean?
They're focused on multiple things. They're excelling in multiple things. They're not just trying to get the money. So they're obsessed with becoming a great coach. That's number one trait. Number two, they're obsessed with continually evolving their body, whether or not that is through fitness, whether it's marathon running, whether it's bodybuilding, whether it's high rocks, whatever it is. They've excelled in their own physique. They also have the trait of obsessing around personal development. There is a trait amongst most of them that have actually sought out personal development mentors, coaching, or have done kind of some degree of spiritual work themselves. That is a given. They have very, very clear standards in terms of the non-negotiable result that they produce. It's called a signature result for me. There's a signature result. Every single coach that we've worked with is constantly working to that signature result. So you could go on their social media and see a signature result and a standard. They're walking the talk with their physique. They've spiritually worked on themselves incredibly. And they're not comparing themselves to everybody else. And the final thing is they have their unique system and deliverable in what they do. They've positioned themselves differently to everybody else. And actually the final thing is they have an opinion. They have an opinion. They stand for something. They actually have found their voice and they're prepared to stand in their own lane. And I feel this is a massive part. And when we have people that loop, they're not developing their knowledge and skill around coaching. They do not have certainty. They're trying to sell something that haven't proven evidence consistently of. This is what I call the dreamer coach. They want the thing without looking at what the thing rewards. For me as a coach throughout my whole of my career, there was an undeniable stack of evidence that I could produce that result consistently over and over again. There was an undeniable stack of evidence that I could grow my knowledge and skill and present that and teach that. There was an undeniable evidence that I could achieve consistency with my own physique, my own training and excelling, right? In the fitness industry, we see this aplenty. People that are prepared to build their own personal brand, stand ahead of everybody else, have an opinion. And the final thing is, they're just freaking patient.
Stay in the game longer than everybody else.
They're patient. And do you know what's funny? The ones that don't succeed are the ones that I've seen that are jumping from mentorship to mentorship. And that's not as a plug to just stick with us long term, but it is true.
Yeah.
If you jump to a mentor that specializes in virality, if you jump to a mentorship that focuses on VSLs and ads and different people, you're going to take parts of everything. However, I don't think it's bad to work with different people, but when your identity and alignment and personal growth and own emotions are unstable, you're not stable enough to be able to take the information, see where it's valuable to the business. So every time you learn something, you think that's the right way. So then you end up with a complete mess business. So these two coaches are like, the funny thing is, even a coach at the earlier stage of their business, one thing I can see with them is they're desperate to improve their physique, and you can see them improving. They're desperate to improve their knowledge. They stay in their lane. They're developing an opinion, and they're developing their results. You can see that evidential. And then I'm like, just stick to the grind. Stick the course. And if they do, they move into this category of expert authority. They do. But on average, I've seen it take 3 years.
I think as well, a lot of people will say now, well, just be careful of personal trainers online who are in good shape. Just because somebody is in good shape, it doesn't make them a good coach. Whilst there is some truth to that, I fully believe that if you are a trainer, you should be in shape, and you should be in better shape than your average. And if you're in your gym, you should be in better shape than everybody else in the gym. And I think about how much you and I learned back in the day, 20 years ago, where we used to attend seminars, attend events, fly over to the States to, seek out the best strength conditioning mentors who really pushed us in our physique. And again, that is a form of changing your identity, because the stuff that you learn to transform your own physique then does translate to others. All right, okay, it starts out as N=1, right? Just because you can transform your physique, it doesn't mean that you can transform other people's physiques. But the more that you do this, and the more that you develop the skill then of understanding human behavior, understanding what drives people, their pain, their pleasure, what motivates them, what keeps somebody disciplined, what keeps somebody online, what are their boundaries. You and I off air, we were talking about our physique boundaries of, where we let things get to. Like, you and I've got a really tight boundary and a really tight lane in which we operate in terms of our physique, which is why we can be here in our 40s, arguably in better shape than most 20-year-olds, because we have a very tight boundary on that, and it is not a negotiable. And so I think you should be in shape as a trainer. You should be, if you're a high rocks trainer, you should, I don't really know what high rocks is. Listen, I'm going to be shot for this, but I actually don't know the difference between high rocks and CrossFit. I think CrossFit has more barbell stuff, but I actually don't know. So perhaps it's after my time. Let's just put it that way. But if you're a high rocks coach, you should be damn good at high rocks and look good doing high rocks. If you're a CrossFit coach, you should look at Tia Claire Toomey. Oh my God, what amazing, a phenomenal athlete. Really, to be at the top of your game. And that's what we should be inspired to do. You look at Lindsey Vonn. She's a 42-year-old skier. She crushed a knee.
Yeah.
You watch her rehab now. I didn't realize that although she totally smashed her leg up, she also broke the ankle of her quote unquote good leg. And I didn't realize this. And, she's posting on Instagram, she's back in the gym, she's starting her rehab, and she's like, oh my God, this sucks, But she's in there and she's doing her thing. What an elite GOAT mentality, greatest of all time.
But we're looking at this, right? What we keep coming back to all the time is the people that actually succeed are the people that are prepared to push the boundaries.
Yes.
We've moved into a world in 2026 where personal branding is winning, right? It went to businesses and people selling a product or an outcome, right? Now it's moved into owning a personal brand.
Yes.
And this is an amazing part of the year. Now, when you have a personal brand, you look at the most successful brands, they've either built something, they are something, or they believe in something, or they've actually got evidence of that thing. And therefore, we're living in this kind of era of, I would say, an era of excellence.
Yeah.
Because the people's personal brands that stand out are because of their knowledge, because of their skills. It's knowledge or demonstration of skills. It's their results. It's their beliefs. It's their connections. And I think that, one of the things I talk to coaches all the time about, which is why in 2026 and the back end of 2025, I pushed hard with the authority brand building. And that's not because I wanted to just create a name in the company, it's because I know that that is the thing that's not only helped me for 25 years. Funny thing is, it's helped you for the whole of your career. It's helped me for the whole of my career. But now it is, by the way, that thing called personal branding, we're now obsessing over. Because with the world of AI and the world of tech, which is a wonderful world that's come into our world, there is a separation between what AI is and then who you are. And that's why I feel that maybe it's a pressure that people feel to become somebody. But if you are going to be online and you are going to be a person of influence, as Daniel Priestley talks about, then you've got to actually have something that people want. You need to be, and I say this to all of our clients, what makes you followable? I said to everybody when you came on to our coaching clinic with our clients the other day, guys, please understand, Rachel is good looking. She trains fucking hard. She's got huge career background. She's got amazing knowledge and produces phenomenal results. Like, her content rides off a lot of the authority brand that she's built and the no bullshit attitude that's not fake. It's real, it's lived. So I think we're in a world where people want a personal brand, but a personal brand is created.
Yes, it is.
It's created, it's built. And then this word that I use a lot in what we do is architecture. And you talk about, who do you need to become to build this business? And that's where I think that we keep coming back to. Is like when coaches come into a business mentorship or clients want fat loss, I want the result. It's like, no, I change the fucking narrative. The narrative is, who do I need to become to show the world that I'm followable, that I'm worth paying money to, and that I can get the outcome for somebody. And if unfortunately you're not followable, then you got to start the journey of building that. And that's the thing I tell coaches all the time. That's why I'll say, I'm sorry, you're not a good coach.
I think a lot of this authenticity thing comes down to the way that you make somebody feel. And that's not necessarily, when I create my reels and my content, I don't always think about the client in mind. I mean, sometimes I do. Like if I'm talking about something particular, I have a particular client in mind that I want to talk to. And actually that's probably a good point. If you are struggling with content, have that one client in mind and just talk to that one client. Don't talk to everybody else, like the sea of mess. That's the sea of mess out there. But I think I don't always do that. And what I do though is that I want people to feel the energy and the frequency that I'm in. And I know that a lot of people are going to listen to this and go, it's woo woo. No, it's not. Because it's not always the words that I'm saying, it's the energy in which I'm delivering that. And some people will feel seen and heard just because of the way of the delivery. It's got nothing to do with the words that I use. And what I try to emulate is, in person, I know I have like a particular vibe and a frequency that I carry around with me day to day. And I try to bring that to social media every day. And so you're going to see all shades of me. I'm not just this one shade and this one character. I'm a woman. Like, I'm fucking wild. I've got all these characters. I'm a bit delusional sometimes. I'm absolutely chaotic. I've got all of these different colors of me. You're not always going to see me perfectly polished on social media. You come behind the scenes in my stories and you'll see the fact that I show up there a lot of the time with no makeup on after training. My hair's a mess. This is all of me. And so whilst the grid, right, the front facing might be the shop front, there are so many layers to that. And I want people to feel that and that's why I have in my bio, welcome to the show. Because I can't define myself as an entrepreneur, as a strength coach, as a mentor. I don't really know what I am anymore. I don't have like a label for it. I just say, welcome to the show. Like, this is who I am. And my Instagram in particular is just my open door to who I am and my brand. And some people like it and some people really don't like it. And I think we do have to, think about when you know who you stand for, or who you are, what you stand for, and where you're going in life. And you are a specialist, you become that specialist and that authority figure in that field. A lot of people are not going to like that. You cannot be liked by everybody, and you are going to have to grow some thick skin, because honestly, a lot of social media, there are some really mean people on the internet. And so I think once you can kind of take a step back from that and see it really for what it is, of just like silly people leaving silly comments. I mean, if I see something that pisses me off on social media, guess what I do? Absolutely fucking nothing. I just ignore it, right? You know, I tell you, it would take a lot for me to
fight back,
to make a actually, I did pass comment on something very stupid I saw the other day. We're not going to get into that. But a lot of the time, it's just a case of this thing has come up in my feed. I don't even follow the person. It's just probably the algorithm wanting to, like, you know, ruffle my feathers, which I either, and if somebody has posted something that has really pissed me off, well, it would take a lot for me to unfollow somebody, because I can't be bothered to go through the faff of going to their profile, hitting unfollow, etc., etc. But I do nothing. And so you got to understand the mentality of somebody who really goes to town trying to pull down or argue with you, or and this is why I don't like, you know, the viral content that is somebody watches somebody else's content and makes, you know, comments on. I don't give a shit what other creators are doing. I really don't. Should I tell you, the one person that I can think of who's doing that really, really well is Brett Contreras, because he picks videos where even if he doesn't agree with something, he'll say, I like this video because of this. I don't really agree with this, and here's why. But a lot of the stuff that he does is so positive, and he's spreading awareness, and he's like, why didn't I think of that? That's such a great idea.
Yeah, I like how he does it.
Yeah.
I think I like how it does. But we talked earlier, and this kind of segues quite nicely into this, is that you and I have been through identity shifts in the last 6 months that we didn't think that we'd go through. But we've also done something which I feel ties very nicely into the personal branding subject that we've talked about, is starting to identify that our business really isn't going to position itself without systems and structure. And something that I've been working on a lot for the last year, which I thought today would be a really good opportunity to discuss that, is the idea around IP, intellectual property around your business. And for me, intellectual property is that thing that differentiates you from everybody else. And I think in a world that we're in at the moment, there are a lot of online coaches. There are a lot of fitness professionals selling. There's a lot of business mentors. There's a lot of everybody doing the same. And I think as the online world continues to grow, what's very, very important is the intersection of your target audience, your IP, and your brand. And when you bring your IP together, it's your moat. And I talked about this at one of our live events at Dubai recently. It's like, you know, this protective layer around you, your IP, creates this kind of moat. And when I looked at this, what I looked at within my company was to deliver something from a start to an end has a system.
Yeah.
If you're going to onboard a client, what is the system? If you're going to take somebody through a fat loss process, phase 1, what is your system and way of doing that? And I think a lot of people in today's age will go, and I speak to a lot of coaches who say, you know, when I get somebody in shape, I say, talk to me about your system.
Yeah.
They don't have one. Talk to me about what your brand is. Who is it? Who's it for? How are you different? Well, I get do fat loss. In today's world, it's so important for people to have IP. It's so important for people to have systems and structure, but being able to articulate that to their clients. So for example, I've always helped coaches build brands. But when you say, yeah, we'll help you build your brand and stand out in the industry, it's like, but we built the All Authority brand operating system, which is our full system of how we help a coach end to end, find out who they are, why they're different, and how they serve their clients, but also how to create a content system that moves you up the ladder from generalist to specialist expert authority. And by doing this, we went, what is your offer and what is your positioning? So I created the offer architecture. And the offer architecture is who you help, how you help people, why you're different, and how you structure your program. It's 4 stages.
I'm like sitting here going, guys, if you're a trainer, this is literally mind-blowing. Like, Mark is giving you the blueprint on how to make it online. Like, if you're listening to this, like, it is mind-blowing, because we have spent 20 fucking years trying to figure this shit out. And you're literally giving a blueprint. Like, sign me up.
Well, look, here's the thing, and it comes to fat loss as well. And the
Yeah.
reason I'm sharing this with you is because to anybody watching this right now, whether or not you have a beauty system, whether or not you have a chiropractic business, a lot of people say, I'm a chiropractor, I'm a beauty therapist. It's like, unless there is something that's intellectually different or a way of being able to package up what you do, it's not. You know, a chiro has their method of doing something specifically. And what we did is we said, well, what is the process that coaches need? They need their offer structure with their architecture. But also, I became very, very well known over the years for keeping my clients long term.
Yes.
So we designed what's called the retention architecture. It's how to reverse engineer a 12-month coaching journey with a client, so that the client can see every milestone that they're going through. And then you sit and you create that architecture with your clients. Now, here's what that's done for me. When it comes to my content and giving away lead magnets, free things, or creating webinars, everything that I teach, I just pull different systems from different systems, and then I teach the system. The funny thing is with marketing your business is that I give away every system that I've created, but the one thing in today's world that people can't do is just the implementation. And I think this is where a lot of people get wrong in business, is they go, I've got all these systems, they're mine, but I'm not going to share them with anybody. And the funny thing is now, over the last year, and to be honest, when I had M10, I had the LHP performance system, because Charles was a big one for naming your business something performance gym.
Yeah.
You remember? There was shredded strength and all these different facilities. But Charles was a big one for helping us name what we did and putting a system.
Yeah.
Do you remember? He had biosignature system,
Yeah.
but it was actually functional medicine. And the funny thing is, I'm like, okay, systems is something over the last kind of couple of years, which I've really doubled down on. But if I go back 25 years, 23 years, when Charles was teaching us, biosignature was a system. It was a systemized way of being able to read body fat around the body and actually understand each part of those body fat relate to hormones. So systems aren't new. It's just,
why didn't we really see that back then?
I don't know.
I remember like sitting down with Charles, and I was the bikini girl back then, and he said, you need to write a book called The Bikini Body System.
No, but you did. You had Athletic Fox.
Yes, I did, but like I wish I'd also written a book.
No, I know, but do you know what's funny is
Maybe
that
it's still in
when
me.
you had Athletic Fox, you had a name,
Yes.
you had a system, you had a process of how you actually got people to where they wanted to be. But here's why. Back in the day, because we didn't have social media, we didn't have to be brand specialists.
Yeah.
Right? So you created the Athletic Fox blueprint. Remember?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, the Athletic Fox
I
blueprint
remember.
was my blueprint.
Was your yeah, but for
Yeah.
what?
For building bikini bodies.
It was, yeah, but that's a system.
Yes.
So it was.
Yeah.
So you and I, back in the day, I created 8-week physique. And by the way, I was talking to coaches yesterday. I had a low ticket program, which was £179 for 8 weeks. And I was selling that on Facebook before Instagram started.
I was doing the same, yeah.
You had the Athletic Fox blueprint.
Yeah.
We were selling these things, low ticket, getting people in on a short-term program to upsell them into a high ticket program. The difference is, back then, because we posted something and got 200 likes or whatever and people bought it, you didn't have to become better, because the world of sameness, now we've got a sea of noise.
Yeah.
So what actually has become more evident in today is almost gone the full circle. Is we had all those systems back in the day. I had 8-week physique, next level body challenge, and I had 8-week muscle, right? They were my process of getting somebody in amazing shape in 8 weeks. And there was a system and a structure to doing it. Today, in the world of sameness that we live in, with thousands more people coming online, you more than ever right now have to position yourself differently, which means you have to have a system, which means your program has to have a name, and you have to have an undeniable stack of evidence that you can achieve that thing over and over and over again. And this is where coaches are missing, because in the industry at the moment, everybody's building their business in reverse. They're growing their followers and they're selling to those followers every day online coaching, which basically means no one really knows what you do. If you have a system and a process and a structure, then you start off with a program, people find out who you are, they buy into you, they trust you, then they buy it. The order of building a business is you have a program, the Athletic Fox blueprint. Now we learn how to market that. Well, we market that through Rachel's amazing content around who she is. Now you have your new program, Black Label.
Right. So we'll talk about Black Label codes.
Again, it's a system.
So it is, but I've reverse engineered this to fit my brand and the way that I do things. Because remember, I'm working identity and energetics leading to fat loss. I don't do it the other way around anymore. And so this is where it's so important to build systems that are aligned with who you are.
100%.
Because if you and I had a conversation about systems, and structure 5 years ago, I would have been like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm tapping out. That's not how I make money. I just make it rain because I'm fucking chaotic, and I don't know, somehow it just works, right? It works to a point, right? And so I had to work with the way that my brain works. And so Black Label Codes, I looked at, okay, so what is the system that we now use? We code people. It's a set of codes that we have. It's not a set of systems. We code people, literally at an energetic level. So this is why Black Label Codes, the tagline is health, energetics, and influence. Coded, right? We literally transform who you are at your core level, at your subconscious level, to be able to achieve the thing.
But on that is, therefore, if you and David were to work with somebody and help code them,
yes,
is there a starting place?
Of course.
Right. Is there a middle place?
Of course.
And is there an outcome?
Of course.
It's a system.
And there are KPIs.
And it's a system.
Yes,
so the point being is this is what a lot of people in business lack. They go, well, I don't really have a system. That's because you've not spent time breaking it down. My system started off with, okay, you can't have a business unless you understand your offer and your program. Your offer and your program is you describe who it's for, how you help people, what the system is you use, why you're different, and what the structure of your coaching program is. So the point is that Black Label has those codes, which are a set of individual systems that you walk people through, that eventually each of those codes will have. Energetics is a system within code, within Black Label, right? And then what that becomes is a webinar that you deliver on energetics, a workshop that you deliver on energetics, a lead magnet on the fundamentals of energetics. And what this then means is that I've got one going out today, my coaching excellence operating system.
Can I just talk about how much I've actually got on board with systems now? Now, I know you're like, finally, like you and David are like the strategic thinkers. And then you have an entrepreneur like me who's just like, wild visionary, ready, go.
But that's why we need the integrators, right?
Of course.
Because the great book, Rocket Fuel, talks about visionaries and integrators. The visionary is fucking nuts. And they're going, well, I got this idea. And
that's me.
But I'm forever saying to my team, let's do this, let's do that. However, what I've had to do is bring the visionary and integrator together, because in the book, they talked about Walt Disney.
Yes, because you're ahead of me. So this is why I love these conversations, because you're like the guinea pig for me. I'm like, okay, so Mark's doing it and I'm seeing what you're doing, and how much more free time and creativity you're having as a result of these systems. I'm like, okay, there's something in this,
Well, Walt Disney was the wild one, and his brother was the integrator. So his brother didn't want to be the front and center man. Walt Disney was. And Walt Disney was like, everyone thinks it's Walt Disney. It's Walt Disney and his brother. And that's what they talk about in the book. And I was like, well, in my business, I have the integrators. I have Stefano that works alongside me, a head of marketing. And he's forever like organizing. And I said to him yesterday, oh, watch this podcast. Great idea. And he did me a 4-minute voice note and go, this is why I wouldn't do it.
Oh, what a legend.
No. And he said, this is why we don't do that. And I was like, completely get you. Because me, sometimes I can be very reactive. Even though I'm very systemized, I also have the integrators inside the company who have no desire to grow their entrepreneurial thing. They have every desire to be a part of an entrepreneurial thing, which is why I've always believed in my company is that my team, they're entrepreneurs in themselves within an organization. So I need to give them that creativity freedom. You said this earlier on in the podcast. It's like when people come into your company, they are owning their own role within your company, but you're giving them the freedom to be entrepreneurially free as long as they can deliver the KPI result for you.
100%. And that's one of the big leadership shifts that I have made probably over the past 3 years, is that I bring in people who, buy back my time, but I bring in people who are fundamentally A players in their own right, and they do it their way. So I bring in somebody who's so good. I don't want to have to train somebody. I don't want to have to teach them my way. I hire somebody who's better than me at that job, and I let them show me how they do it. And then of course, like there's this communication thing that goes back and forth. But I think one of the things that with this like whole systems thing, and if people are struggling with content, you have like an endless stream of content if you know your systems and your pillars. Some people call them pillars within, there are certain phrases, right, that I use over and over and over again within the business and with clients. And so we then, put systems around those things and, all of the KPIs. But one of the things that I do want to talk about that we've talked about several times is AI, because whilst AI is amazing and can help build these systems, what I have found is that it kind of takes like an energy and a frequency of its own. And when you try, so I've used AI and I really like Claude. I don't use ChatGPT for many things, other than basically just a Google search thing now. I use Claude for organizing things, especially like, I'm not very good at spelling and all of that. So I use it for that. But what I found is that, and I tested this, I started to use AI to create hooks and to create carousels. And I was very careful, because if I read anything that's AI written on social media, I immediately switch off, right? The one words and the one sentences, particularly like the bullshit ChatGPT stuff. I immediately switch off, and it has zero value for me. I don't care how good the coach is. Immediately, you're using AI, I'm not interested. And so what I found was, okay, I'll use Claude to generate some hooks for me for reels and things like that. So a few of these hooks, they were quite good. So the first time I did it, I was like, oh, these hooks are pretty good. Because all I need when I do content.
Were they really good? Or were you allowing ChatGPT to tell you they're Claude to tell you they're good? That's
I
what
was
happened
using,
for me, right?
Right. So because it shortcutted the hard work for me, I think I got the dopamine hit of, oh, yeah, actually, that does sound good.
Yeah, I agree.
And so the first round that I did, they were all right. And then I thought, oh, well, those reels were actually really easy to film. Again, shortcuts the hard work. It then got to the point where I was like my second month in, so my second batch of reels. So I tend to film like 40 reels in one hit. And so by the time I got around to my like second batch of 40 reels, I was like, I ran out of like the hooks, and I was getting bored with my own hooks. Problem, red flag number one. If you're bored of your own content, you're bored of your own hooks, red flag. And then I thought, right, I'll go back and I'll start creating my own hooks and my own things. Do you know how hard it was to go back and tap into the creativity that was so accessible prior to me using AI? I'd say AI has made me stupid. It's made me not think for myself, and it absolutely fucking killed my creativity, and it killed my reach. Mm-hmm. So AI is amazing. We should use it. It solves a lot of problems, but I do not think it is a replacement for genuine content that comes through an expert creator.
I did a AI experiment myself, and I love creating educational carousels. Mm. And for a period of time, I used Claude as a writer. It's actually become way much more of a strategist help now. I use ChatGPT for a strategic helper, and then Claude a lot more for writing, but I'm leaning more towards Claude now at the moment for a lot of other stuff. But I created my carousels, and I kind of outsourced my brain, as I call it, to Claude. And what I realized was the carousel engagement went down by 50%.
Wow, that's huge.
50%, right? Because there is a part of me that knows how I speak. Well, A, I know how I speak, but B, when I do my research with the audience, for example, it started to do reels where I would say a statement on carousels where I'd say a statement on the first page, and I was like, oh, that statement looks good. And then I was like, but coaches respond to how to do something. Coaches need me to say, do this. Here's some standards you need to improve. Here's what you need to improve. And when I went back over what worked versus what I'd allow ChatGPT to start telling me was right, I realized that I had just surrendered my brain, and I was producing them at speed. Even this morning, I sat down, I was like, it's going to take me an hour to really nail this one, right? To really, really nail it. And something that I feel really, really proud of, because in order to bring me into the equation, it's going to require my headspace and time.
Yes.
So what I've noticed is, and I think this is also something to go with Claude and ChatGPT. If you're using the simple chat function, it steals your brain. Mm-hmm. If on the flip side you build the projects in there that's got your own IP, that's got your thoughts, it's got like 50 YouTube videos, and it understands how you speak and think. I think that's incredibly valuable. But I do believe that we need to be very, very careful that the thinking and idea creation is not outsourced to the point where you don't use your own mind to develop and be creative, because I think
it's a slippery slope.
well, I even think about my son, he's only 2.5, and I think, Jesus, I want him to at first I was like, well, kids aren't going to need to study. I was like, while you've got a brain between your ears, we're reading, we're studying, we're learning, whether it's biomechanics, sleep, stress, digest. Like, I look, Rach, and I think how proud I'm very proud of me for how many courses I've done over the years, how much I study intently. I still make my breakfast every day and have 25 minutes worth listening to a podcast or something educational, or book. You're incredibly well studied and researched, right? Our children then look at that, and I talk to Marsh, like, I understand blood work, I understand sleep and the science of biomechanics and movement and human behavior, studied it intently. I probably would have grown up saying I'm not smart, but now I'm very fucking smart.
Yeah.
In the fitness world and business world, I am. I'm very, and I don't think we can just, intelligent smart, like practical is intelligently smart, because you've got a lot of life and life experience. Exactly. But also understanding how the body works, the brain works. And we've developed those as our skill. And I think if I put that knowledge and go, I'm going to stop using it, if you don't use it, you lose it. And I think that is something with AI. I'm going to be so focused on helping my son study, how I'm going to teach him to learn is another kettle of fish, but certainly the stuff that he wants to learn, I'm not going to allow him to surrender himself to AI, because
completely.
I think that I've watched me surrender to it
as a grown-ass adult.
As an adult, I've allowed myself to surrender it. But I did say this to somebody the other day. ChatGPT, in my opinion, is still a subscription service.
Yes.
Right? Which means it's a profit-generating business model for someone. That's the first and foremost we've got to remember. I sat down with somebody the other day and I said, just stop for a second. If there is a profiting and there is a price point for a product, somebody says they're doing it for the greater good of humanity, but they're actually doing it for a bank balance. And while we're doing that, what we're not realizing is that this thing that they said it was here to help us, we have to look critically as well as objectively, because also what we're watching in the world right now is listening to everybody who is involved in the AI generation. Because if you look at the industries, Dan Martell said this the other day, real estate, a lot of money to be made in it. AI, startup, how you can help a company grow and develop, even the fitness industry. It was one of his top 3 recommendations for growing a business right now, right? Which there's a lot of coaches making a lot of money in the industry. But the AI side of it, be careful to who you listen to. AI is changing the game. Okay, let's look down the rabbit hole. What is your business model? Teaching startups how to run an AI company. Because right now there's a lot of people pivoting to grow an AI business. And why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Inside my company, we have all the projects that help coaches develop their offer. We have all the AI tools for our coaches to have a thinking partner.
Yes.
Right? They're all thinking partners. I call them thinking partners.
Yeah.
All our AI tools are thinking partners, because what we can do is say, here's a video, watch me for half an hour talk about why you need an offer. That's where the mentoring used to break down, because then I'd go and create your offer. Now we have a thinking partner that sits with you and goes, right, who's your target audience? And then it goes through like an hour's worth of this GPT system with you to help you create, which I think is a thinking partner is great. And then what's your next step? There's another one to do this. But we've got to be careful in that you're hearing people say AI is the future. Why are they telling you that? Again, brainwashing. It is a degree of brainwashing that AI is the future. I think that everything is a tool as long as you don't surrender the human.
And that being the critical point, because I had got to the stage, and it manifests differently for different people, but I already have the attention span of a squirrel on speed. And so I noticed that my focus and my procrastination was getting worse and worse.
Really?
And it's something that I've always have to keep on top of. And I noticed that, initially when I started using chat, I probably started using ChatGPT, a year ago. Like, I was a late adopter, but a year ago, I was spending more time chatting with this thing, trying to get it to learn my voice. Like I've got a very unique voice. So for me to try and get it to speak my language was really difficult. I was spending more and more time training this thing. And I was like, it would be easier and quicker for me to just write the damn thing. And then I noticed I was starting to get, I call it like itchy brain for, those who are inclined like me to have, poor attention span on things. I call it itchy brain. And so my itchy brain started to become more and more, focus was very poor, procrastination was was getting really bad. And I realized it was because of this. And then I also, so there was a few things that I've changed, stopped using so much AI. I write now every single day. So yes, I also read and stuff, but I write. And sometimes I write a paragraph. Sometimes I write more. And I could write anything. It could be if I'm struggling for ideas, it's just the stuff that I'm grateful for, or whatever journaling prompt, I just kind of get downloaded to me. So I've started practicing writing more and connecting more again. And I have gone back to reading. So this is also something I implemented last year in August, where I would not buy another journal and I would not buy another book until I had finished the book prior, reading physical book. Yeah. And then the third thing I've done is stop consuming so much content, because like most overachievers, I consume a lot of content. So whilst both of us are extremely well read, that has come over a period of 20-year career, not over a short period of time. And I think we are all consuming so much content now, whether it be in short form, in podcasting, whatever it might be. So now whenever I'm consuming content, I think to myself, am I actually going to use this, or am I just trying to fill my brain with nonsense stuff? So when I arrived here today, I'd obviously been listening to a podcast on the way down. What did we do? We talked about the podcast that I've been listening to, and I was intently listening to this podcast so that I could use some of the information in it. And now it was a behavioral science podcast, and I'm going to use some of what I've learned with clients and actually implement that into Black Label. And so just being a lot more mindful about where I'm spending my time. And then the final thing is allowing time and space in my diary. So one of my goals for this year is actually to have an empty diary, or as little in it as humanly possible. So I've gone from being the busy entrepreneur who's, back to back with clients, back to back with meetings, always going from one thing to another, never having more than 5-minute spaces in my diary, to somebody who's got basically completely empty diary. And the level of freedom that gives you, it feels amazing.
Are you there yet?
Yes, like today I am going home and I've got one client booked in at 5:00. And what am I doing between when I get home and 5:00? Well, I don't know yet. Whatever, I mean, obviously I'm about to launch Black Label, so there's a whole heap of things to do there, but I'll pick whatever I feel like doing. Like all of this stuff has to get done eventually, but it's a lot more of a flexible way of doing things. I don't need need to be busy all of the time. It just doesn't work for me anymore.
That's interesting. I have gone from having a bit more time to having very little. However, I actually work from 1 till 7. Like my block, I work from 5:45 till 8 a.m. And Marsh comes down with Mason, and then I spend time with him until I go to the gym. I'll normally go up at 9:30 for half an hour just to get a couple of things done. And then when I go to the gym at 10 until 1, that's 3 hours. I probably had 4 hours in between Mason waking up and me starting at 1 o'clock to I keep my phone on me, but I forget that I have a big block in the middle where I have time to myself. I go to the gym.
Exactly that.
Yeah. And so I have engineered the life that I want. And I look at this and going on your point, I think this is really important for us to kind of summarize where we're at right now, is that so much of the life that I wanted to engineer, I've created. And I look at like where we live, what we do, the home that we've got, the lifestyle that Marsha's got with Mason, the fact that she's at home all the time. And I think often kind of what else, what's next? What am I working towards? And I think that, I like business. I like being busy. I like having projects. But you talked about content and how you consume. I've been realizing recently that when I consume something, the filter that I need is what am I trying to build? Because in the world right now, there's different financial opportunities. And then it's like, does that suit me? Does it not suit me? And what I've realized at the moment is especially with content, is how easy it is for it to filter into your brain and change your perception of what you're actually supposed to be focusing on. And I think what I'm focusing on at the moment more than anything is reminding myself what I want, what I wanted, and what makes me happy. And that's enabled me. Before we came on air, we were saying that, you know, I love spending time with Marsh and Mason. And there are times when I've looked on social media, seen people with busy social lives and and subjected that in and go, something's got to change in my life. I need to be busier. I need to spend more time with more people. I need to travel to more things. But the reality is, at the moment, everything that I was trying to engineer, I've got.
Yeah.
Everything that I was trying to engineer, I've got. And that's where one of my commitments to myself over the next 6 months is to consume less, unless it's aligned to the direction that I'm going. Because I think at the moment I have started to become a bit more of a consumer. And I think that's easy to become sloppy,
Of course.
especially with things that are going on in the world. You listen to different people's opinions, and you've just made me realize that is that, and that's why I've kind of unpicked that just in that last 60 seconds, was like, I feel I've become a bit of a consumer. And I think the consumption can overwhelm you and throw you off track on something that you've already predetermined and decided. Because I actually have a wealth planner in my GPT. I built it. It's got the whole of the family vision, the architecture of what I'm trying to create in my life. And it's so crystal clear. And I actually said to it 2 days ago, you know, here's where my brain is right now versus what I told you a year when I built this. And it was like, you're off track in your thinking.
I love that.
And it said, you're off track in your thinking, because what I'm trying to build is a calm, free, energy, complementary world where I'm able to spend time with my wife, my son, my life. We've just bought the home that we've always wanted. We're able to see people. We're going to see you guys at the weekend and spend time with great people. And sometimes we can want more and more, when in reality, last year when I wrote down what I want, I've got it all.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that the overconsumption of content, and leaving this episode today with what's the one promise to myself that I'm going to make at the moment, and maybe you want to share one of yours, but my biggest promise to me is to stop over-consuming shite.
So one of my best friends, Paula, okay, cool. So one of my best friends, Paula, she had breast cancer in the end of 2023, and it's been quite the ride since then. And her diagnosis fundamentally changed her, and it changed me. And we've had obviously a lot of conversations over the past couple of years. And when we were setting our goals, we both do it in August. So my year runs from August to August. And I wrote down, I had like all of these different areas, and it was like pages and pages in my journal. And I said, top 3, what are they? And she was like, bang, 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 these are hers. And they were literally one word or one sentences. And I was like, holy shit. And I read out mine, and she was like, oh, maybe I should make mine a bit more detailed. And I said, no. I said, I've just learned something from you. I have 3 goals for this year, right? A clear diary, my blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and a financial goal for the business. And that is it. And the best thing about simplifying that is that instead of having this long, very emotional, like, what I want to achieve for this year, which is pages and pages long in my journal, now I have 3 things. And so whenever I'm doing anything, whether it's listening to a podcast, any interaction or any meeting or anything that I say yes to now, does it fit one of those 3 categories? More time in my diary, my blue belt in jiu-jitsu, and where I'm scaling the business to. If it's a no, I don't do it. And it's become so much more simple. So I think for me, somebody who's got very good at journaling and very good at, writing things down and getting very crystal clear clarity on where I'm going, there's also merit in the simplicity of the 3 things that you're going to achieve this year. So less consumption of shit for you.
Well, less consumption of shit for me. It's not the fact that it's got bad. I think sometimes this is important. If there's an overconsumption, sometimes it's due to a lack of clarity. And that's not to say I'm not clear on where I'm going and what I'm doing. But
I think you're very clear. I think it's just a case of you've got guidelines that are, Whereas some people have guidelines like this and they have to kind of hit rock bottom of, doing many days of procrastination. Like yours is so fine that you're able to catch it so quickly. Just off like this conversation.
No, it's literally been, I'd probably say the last 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And I think there's been a lot going on.
Yeah, there's been a lot going on.
The stuff I'm consuming is aligned with what's been going on.
Yeah.
And what it's doing to me, in all honesty, and I'll tell you, it's changing my investment strategies and future planning around the excitement of what's happening. Not excitement as in good, but everyone's excitement with what's happening in markets and money. And I'm like, should I immediately change all my life planning strategies around what's happening today? And what that's done is it's unsettled me.
Right.
Because I'm very clear on my long-term stable strategy of growth. And what's happened recently is, here's an idea, that's happening, this is happening, the market's doing this, and it kind of can create a little bit, oh my God, should everything shift?
Yes.
As opposed to, and this is what I said to myself, slow down, because that's what you do well, Mark. You slow, you watch, you observe, and then you make a decision. And that's what this kind of time has done to me. I think certain times unsettle you.
Yeah.
And then you realign. And the one thing that I always come back to is, and you do it August to August, Marsh and I always write a vision every single year. And one of the biggest visions this year was to buy a house.
And you did that in January or before.
And we're upgrading that until over the next 4 or 5 months. And that's the only project I need.
Amazing.
It was, what's the goal? Was to buy a dream home and get our golden visa, right? And to be honest, there's the financial goal for the company. There's the restructuring. That's all fine. But when I said to Marsh, if we actually, and this is what a lot of people don't do, if our goal was to buy a house in Dubai and put down a route, and honestly, if you look at my vision plan, it was to create a Mediterranean home with a pool and a vibe that helped Marsh feel like she was on holiday every day and gave us somewhere for Mason to play. It's a tick box. Yeah. And sometimes we can want this next big thing, but the reality was it's on a piece of paper and it's materialized. And you're a big one for, if it's there and you work toward it, just fucking happen. And I think that's where, even in the last 2 minutes, I'm like, okay, cool. I can see where maybe my thinking's tried to go too broad, but it needs to come back to the whole, but that was the goal. That was the goal. And that's the plan you got to work on. And I think that's, it's great to talk this through, because sometimes when you talk, like you said, the skill of somebody that's great in their mindset is how quickly they can drift, but how quickly they come back.
Yeah.
When I was younger and I drifted, it took me months to come back. Yeah. But if I drift, it could take a couple of days and then I'm back. It can take 3 or 4 weeks. I'll come back, because you have that emotional intelligence, awareness. We have the best chats, Rach.
We do. The better it gets, the better it gets.
It does. It does. And the better our friendship. And I value you immensely and our friendship. And David and our family connection that we all have, which we'll all see each other this weekend.
Looking forward
to it. This was episode 3. And we'll be back for episode number 4.
4, just before the summer, before we travel. So let's see what our 4th episode will entail.
Lovely. Enjoy today.
Thank you so much.